Good morning, everyone, and welcome to an early edition of Talking Horses, Day 39 in Saratoga, Jockey Club Gold Cup Day. Sarah Albadwi and Andy Serling. We've got 14 races to talk about and under an hour to do it, so we're going to get right to work on today's show. Head over to Naira Bets. Use the promo code SPA200 and we'll match the $200 of your initial deposit. We have a 30% bonus on something. Take your time, Eddie. It's okay. Anyway.
Surprise.
Okay. Please move the slates to something. Cross country pick 5, 3 here, 2 at Monmouth. We've got the low rollers contest. Head on over to the Miller Time 4-Star Dave Sports Bar. It's a $40 buy-in, $30 bankroll, $10 prize pool. Last chance to hang out with Jay and Ray this year in a very fun contest. So head over to the low rollers today. That's on track only, obviously. And where are we, Eddie? Okay, we're on from 11 to 1 on FS2. Big Fox covering the Jockey Club Gold Cup at 1 till 2. Then 2 to 4 on FS2. 4 to 5 on FS1 and 5 to 6 on FS. I think it's 5 to 7.
I believe you are correct.
I think it's 5 to 7 on FS2.
We go until the bitter end today.
Also, do want to let people know that the 9th race today is on the inner turf course. It was incorrectly listed as the Mellon turf course, so you should know that race at 1 mile and 16th will be run on the inner turf today. Race number 1. Let's take a look at Ebony and Ivory. The last race, the start, a horse that will be probably the favorite or co-favorite. Just a disastrous beginning last time out, and really wanted to show people the stumble in there. Kind of lost the horse about 1.5 lengths to 2 lengths. You can show the head on that as well, and you'll see how bad it was. And Ebony and Ivory still ran, Ivory and Ebony, still ran very well to get third in there. She's the horse to beat, but like you, I took the 6 Resurge.
Exactly, and look, this is one of those situations where you have a stumble that is legitimate right out of the gate, where she does encounter that serious trouble, and she also makes the solid effort to overcome that, where she ends up finishing third in here behind Delightful Claire, who we saw finish second yesterday in the prior S, and so I think that she makes a ton of sense in here. I just don't want a favorite in what is a field with plenty of upside.
Right, but we've taken horses that are the co-second choices, Morning Line and Resurge. Probably won't be much bigger price in here, but go ahead.
The pedigree speaks for itself. We've seen these offspring of closed hatches do extremely well. Tacitus, Scylla. But it seems as though the propensity to want to be a winning type doesn't necessarily run in the family either, but they always seem to show up at the highest level of competition and do their best. And I just think that this one, now having a couple of starts, getting that stamina, getting a couple of those longer route races, and now taking the blinkers off, today might be the day.
Yeah, I saw it differently why I picked this horse. Broke a step slow. I go back to the last dirt race. Is obviously not a turf horse. They took a shot, and she's not. I think in that race on July 10th, she broke a step slow in there. She was caught 5 wide on the first turn, 3 to 5 wide on the second turn, and I think she just got completely out-tripped by horses that had just much, much juicier trips, and I actually thought her race was a lot better than it looks. I understand she has a big pedigree, but in analyzing her and looking at her 2 races, I think today is the day. I think she's run better than it looks in both of her races. I do respect Ivory and Ebony, and I think one of the questions in here obviously is if you want to give Endorse another chance. We don't, but you do wonder a little bit. Ivory and Ebony is going to be the speed, but you wonder if Irad will look to be more aggressive. But she's obviously been very disappointing.
She has, but you might get a price today relative to the ones that she's been in her last couple of starts. And I don't think Bon Vivant is out of it either, a horse that has run into the full siblings of Tappet Trice, not last time, but now this time as well.
Yeah, I actually tried that horse before and didn't think he ran very well. I wonder if the full to Tappet Trice, the number 5 Aeolian, could be a dangerous horse first time out for Chad Brown. Race number 2, the A's are scratched. Where'd you go in here, Sarah?
I went towards the outside, which might be a little bit counterintuitive, but I thought that Funny Factor was coming out of a race where on the turf 2 back, this horse actually ran pretty well given the wide trip that this one had and the huge price that this horse was for the first time. Okay, then goes to the dirt, ends up in that race that was won by AI, who was visually impressive while not a particularly quick race. And I just think that getting back to the turf for this horse, who ran pretty well first time out for connections who don't necessarily fire right away, could be one that's overlooked a little bit towards the outside.
All right. The 2 a little at first is a half to 26 Black, who's running the stake later today. So you've got actually a full to that horse. You got plenty of pedigree for that one. I'm scared of that one more than you. The 4 Mr. Breeze has a little bit of pedigree, but being a full to Coach Case may or may not be a particularly exciting thing for a horse making its debut sprinting. And number 7, 21 Red, I thought had pedigree for George Weaver, except I'm not sure what to do with a tonalist, but I thought it was interesting that Flavian Pratt showed up in this horse. But I'm going to bet on Daisy Dew in here, who, you know what, this horse broke slow, was wide on the backstretch, wide around the turn, and I just thought this horse actually didn't run that badly, gets inside, has the pedigree perhaps to have some speed in here, and I'm kind of hoping that Romero just is able to send from the inside. I feel like this is an all or nothing play, but I thought this horse ran well enough first time out to take a shot second time, and I have not picked a Bobby Robato horse in a while. I'm taking Daisy Dew today.
You are due for your time, and that's a productive race. This one comes out, and we saw Truman's Commander stretch out, win yesterday. DeLelo, it was third again in that spot. Make a prediction, improve slightly. So certainly a live one that does get the benefit of likely saving ground.
Race number 3. Let's take a look at Echo again and Dilger last time. And it's funny because I was talking about with Jonathan, we were talking yesterday off camera about Whitney Day, and he said, "Did you think it was a dead rail?" And I said, no, and then I went back and looked, and I said, if it wasn't for this race, the 7th race, I would have argued it was possibly a dead rail. The problem was this horse came up the rail, angled out in the stretch. The winner was on the rail every step of the way. So for me, as somebody who's biases, if there's a race run like this, especially smack dab in the middle of the card, not late in the day or very early in the day, that's run so counter to the rail, I can't really make it a dead rail. This horse ran well last time, and frankly, if he can run back to that effort, he's going to be a handful in here. I just am a little dubious of him coming back and running as well, but he ran fast last time. I thought it was a very good effort.
He did, and look, he's been facing some tough company and some quality horses throughout his career, but especially lately, and he's been in good form. He's just not really that reliable winning type of horse that we've seen. So I understand the appeal, and certainly the numbers speak for themselves with him, but I just wanted to go in a slightly different direction, who would be a better price, as I see you did as well.
Why do you like Society Man?
Just there was once a little bit of back class for this horse, and I thought that he was one that might get a little bit of pace in this spot with a horse like Dilger, who likes to be forwardly placed in here. And I also felt as though he was one that maybe Capital Idea would go be forwardly placed. He just did not run much last time out, and I can sort of forgive that wet track experience with the 1 1/8 race, and now that he's going third off the layoff, I'm just hoping that at a price he can get back to some of his better races back in the day.
I don't agree there's going to be more pace in here, and I almost didn't pick him, but I kind of have a contract to bet this horse today, but I am worried about the pace, and that's why I have the 5-second in here, because I think Dilger may be in a position to run these off their feet early, and I think he's very, very much the horse to beat because of his speed, more so than others in here. As far as Society Man, I liked him last time. And he obviously didn't run well, but he ran so badly. And the way that race was run, I think that the wet track had to have something to do with it. So I really don't love betting horses back, whether they win or lose, but I have to give this guy another chance. He's got fast races. His race 2 back is fast enough to compete here. And I just thought he'd be a decent enough price, but I am worried about the pace. I don't agree that there will be much pace. And, Capital Idea will show. He's a classic. Last time was the time horse. Having said that, this is a horse that had real ability early, and his prior connections just sort of gave up on him. And listen, I get it. A lot of times, smart connections give up on horses, and they look back on it and think, maybe we shouldn't have done that. And, circumstances can change. But the reality is this horse was always sort of on the verge of being okay. It kind of went in the wrong direction. But he showed last time that he is capable of running good races, and I'm not convinced that he can't improve on that effort. And if he does, he can win this race today. I did not pick him because I had him last time, but I do think he's dangerous in here.
I think it's completely possible that I'm wrong about this, but looking at his races over a sloppy sealed racetrack, they're better than the ones when he has a fast main track. Now, maybe you could say he's just improved as a horse overall. He's likely to be forwardly placed in here. He's taken that step in the next direction for him, but I just see that as those races looking like outliers.
Well, the problem with that theory is that you're ignoring his race at Monmouth on September 2nd. And frankly, his debut at a mile was actually okay, even though the figure was a bit lower. So I understand the idea, and maybe you're right about that, but I don't know that his PPs really bear that out, but I guess we'll find out today. Race number 4 to 1 1/16, and I've been reminded at this meet that these are extremely tricky races, particularly because it's very, very hard to know how they're going to be run. And far too often here, one rider is decisive early and then is able to set up just a ridiculously slow pace like we saw yesterday. And it's happened a lot this meet. And basically, at that point, the closers have no chance in the race because of the way the dynamics are. So in these races, I feel like if you're going to play, you got to find somebody to price and sort of, hold your nose and hope it works out. And I also think the best thing about a lot of these races is to watch them and find some trips. And then when we get down to New York, instead of having a whole lot of firsters in these races, we'll have horses with at least 1 or 2 races behind them so we can judge them a little bit and see who may be better or worse than they ran. Having given that rant, you've got the number 4, Live in the Breeze.
The dam side precocity is a big angle for me, and I agree with you completely on how races have been shaking out. It looked like a total optical illusion yesterday in the last race where everybody was making this big move on the turn and then the pace held together completely. But with this one, a half to 2 horses that did win first time out. Nunzio on the dirt, but Smooth Breeze on the turf for these connections. And that's just an angle that I feel as though is one I always give that little bit more of an edge coming in.
The problem with this horse is, and certainly she can win in here, and she's got IRAD, so it's going to take a lot of money, but the turf winner was a more than ready. And this horse is a classic Empire, and he's 10% in the turf. He's not terrible, but he ain't more than ready. So I worry a little bit that you're going to a stallion that may not be as effective as one that's good as more than ready, but I certainly saw the same things you did. I'm taking Boomington here for George Weaver. There's a little bit of turf pedigree. The second dam is maybe a little bit more, but you know what? The Maxfield's a run. I respect in George Weaver, and this is more of just a play on George Weaver because I didn't love that pedigree situation. Maria Callas is dangerous. This is at least the second time that she's been entered for Chad Brown and Larry Goichman. You always have to respect these horses. But I don't know. I just sort of guess with Boomington. I don't have a particularly strong opinion here.
The 2 has some pedigree, but I think it's to be determined whether that's for turf or for dirt.
It's kind of more a dirt pedigree. Horses have won on the turf, but they've been better dirt horses and they've been cheaper. But, I respect Thomas Coutinho. Would love to see him get a win in here. We'll see what happens in race number 4. We'll break after race 7, by the way. And the big one, the Jockey Club Gold Cup. And this is, I would have to go back a long time to find a Jockey Club Gold Cup that was as potent as this one. And obviously, Fierceness sort of threw his name back in the ring as a potential player in the older horse division with his excellent performance yesterday out in the Pacific Coast Classic, which I imagine a lot of people saw. He got a 107 buyer for that race. So he was able to put that Whitney behind him. Having said that, I think his stablemate, Mindframe, has sort of put himself in the leader of the division. But I wanted to start with the Whitney when Sierra Leone finally got at least an honest pace in one of these races and delivered. But frankly, Highland Falls ran extremely well in here. I think White Abarrio ran very well in here, and Disarm at least finally ran his first good race since the Travers, his first triple-digit buyer since the Travers. Talk about Disarm, who you've picked in here.
And look, I can totally understand that he was not beating the horses that end up finishing first and second in this spot. And I could even make the argument that Highland Falls ran one of the best races, given how close he was early on to the pace that started to come apart late. But Sierra Leone was able to get that victory in here, and Highland Falls looking to be a back-to-back winner of this race. I just wondered if he might have to deal with a little bit more of that, early pace like he did last time, getting that extra mile and a quarter distance with horses like Contrary Thinking and Phileas Fogg in here as well. That led me to Disarm, who I felt made a big early move in that race last time out. And while Joel Rosario was back on for the first time in quite some time since last year when he was third in that Jockey Club Gold Cup, he takes this horse right over to the rail and just stays there. And I think the extra mile and a quarter distance of that little bit of an eighth, of being in that position where he just stays there, if he doesn't make the same early move that he did, I think it could be enough at a comparable price to a horse that really outran his odds last time.
Okay. I just don't know that he's really good enough to win a race like this, but I do agree that he actually ran pretty well. I think Highland Falls is hugely dangerous out of that race as an alternative to Sierra Leone winning this race last year and running. He was close to the pace. He held on well. He, too, was sort of near the inside. At the end of the day, though, for me, while I think White Abarrio also ran well and is not impossible in here, I just think Sierra Leone has consistently shown that he's the best horse. And a lot of people are going to say, well, how do you say that? You know, he's pace dependent, he's this and that. He's actually not pace dependent. What he is a horse that's been victimized by the way racing is run too often in this country, especially on the dirt. If he had been born 30 years ago, he would have been probably undefeated because we used to actually have people that tried for the lead in races. We ran honest paces. And despite one sort of moderate pace after another, he always shows up. He's a deep closer that's been in the money in all 12 of his starts, every one of them mistake race, save his debut. He's got 5 wins in 4 seconds. He's not a horse that's sort of some failure that got lucky last time. All he got was an honest pace, and he got it done. And as we segue to Mindframe and Sierra Leone in the Foster, and I don't like to knock Mindframe because I'm a huge Mindframe fan. I think he's absolutely terrific. He is effective against the best horses in the country at any distance you seem to run him at. He's a highly unusual horse. I don't think you can knock a mile and a quarter for him because how well he ran the Travers. But at the end of the day, he won this race because it was a moderately paced race that he's able to sit on top of. And Sierra Leone, made that big middle move and was still finishing at him at the end. And I just think Sierra Leone ran a much better race. And in an honestly paced race, I just think that Sierra Leone's a better horse than he is. This is not a knock on Mindframe. I'm a big fan, and I'm not going to be shocked if I'm wrong and he wins this race.
And Mindframe is one of the horses I was very wrong about last year when he showed up and ran so big in that Belmont, finishing second to Dornoch, and he's never really run a bad race. But I agree with you. Looking at the way that that race was won last time, it's just hard to imagine him getting the same kind of setup where he's able to have more of that comfortable early position. And I have nothing but respect for him. He's a horse that can handle the grade ones from 7 furlongs to the mile and an eighth to, I think this is also within his wheelhouse, mile and a quarter, ultra consistent. I just don't think at a short price it's going to set up for him the way it did last time.
Well, yes. The one thing I'd say is I don't think he's in any way pace dependent. I think he's a very interesting horse that makes his own trips. He can position himself where he has to be. I just feel like Sierra Leone's the better horse in a fairly run race. But I don't think the margin is that extreme, and I respect him. Let's take a look at Phileas Fogg, who will be the speed, along with Contrary Thinking in here, holding off Antiquarian. I think that Antiquarian is maybe the most interesting other horse in this race besides all the big guys, because this is a horse to me, and take nothing away from Phileas Fogg, and listen, Gus Rodriguez has done an amazing job with this horse. He's a horse that he claimed for 62.5, sort of going nowhere, and he has completely and totally turned this horse's career around. And win or lose, a tip of the cap to him. But Antiquarian, to me, is just getting better with every race, and I think there's a chance if somebody told me that somebody really stepped forward in here, isn't he the likeliest candidate to do it? And I think he's just going to be completely ignored in here.
Well, he has the room to do so, whereas we know about these other horses more so than we do him, having run that triple-digit buyer for the first time in that last start and almost getting there where maybe things were up against him a bit. The other horse that defeated him, able to control early on. So I completely get it. I think he's very interesting to put underneath somewhere. I just don't know if he's quite good enough unless a couple don't show up.
Jockey Club Gold Cup will be shown on Fox between 1 and 2 on Big Fox, race number 6 at a mile and an eighth on the turf. We'll take a look at Virgin Colada, and we'll see what happens if she can finally get it done. This was her third in the Memories of Silver, and I think if she's able to run this race, she's going to win. I can understand some people think, she's been a bit of a disappointment. But the reality is she's just been running against much better horses. And I'm going to count on Flavien Prat finding a way to work out a trip on her. And I just think she's better than these horses.
I think that's completely possible. Do you worry about pace for her at all or not?
Well, as I just said, I think that Flavien can try to figure out a trip with her. And I'm not going to get too concerned. I'm not in love with her. I just didn't have a horse I wanted to pick against her with. And if I don't have anything to pick against her with her, I'm not just going to take a shot with some long shot here. You're taking the one Cliffs.
Yeah, look, this one has not faced the kind of company that a horse like Virgin Colada has. That's blatantly obvious. But I just thought it would have a little bit more forward position than that one. Gets to save ground down towards the inside and just seems as though this is a horse that took a big step forward last time. This is a tough test to be coming in here and a horse that's not going to be a huge price. But I thought that I wanted somebody who was going to sit that kind of pocket trip versus a horse that's going to have a little bit more to do.
Yeah, I'm not really interested in maiden breakers in this race. I think Pookie is dangerous for Tom Morley, who's having one heck of a week. You watch her last race. She was chasing outside, and they're just better horses, and just kind of gave up at the end. I don't think her race against Lavender Disaster, her comeback race, was that bad. It's a horse that's capable of running figures higher, and I thought she was a little bit interesting. She might have some ability and just hasn't had a real chance to show it this year, and I don't want to condemn her off the Lake George chasing outside. And I also thought Sal Doro, the 8, was a horse that I don't think she had a bad trip, and I'm not sure how good that race was overall last time. But after breaking a step slowly, you could argue she never was able to find a rhythm in there. So my other horses, the 10, are the 5 and 8.
If I had more confidence that the 7 Sea to Sky could get out of the gate cleanly first time in the U.S., I would be using her a
You
little
could
bit
pick
more
all of
prominently.
Cherie's horses. She is running against horses that are inferior over in Europe. I don't know if you looked them up, but they aren't that good. Race number 7, going 6 furlongs. We'll take a look at Lovely Christina getting trounced by Carmel Coast, who I think we all look forward to running in stakes, a Whit Beckman horse that ran extremely well to win this race. And I'm not going to knock her, and Todd's having just a great meet, especially with his 2-year-olds, but not just with his 2-year-olds.
I think that he's really shown up with more 2-year-olds than we have been conditioned to expect over the past couple of years, where it's kind of been, this is the time to show up, and we haven't seen quite the abundance. But
We haven't?
for the past couple of years, in relation to this year, as well as maybe like 5 years ago?
I'm going to disagree, but okay.
Okay. Look, this horse ran very well first time out. I think she just ran into a horse that's pretty good.
Yeah.
And I don't want to hold that against her too much coming into this spot where I couldn't latch on to somebody else to go with an alternative versus a horse who ran so well first time out for connections that I thought are having a great meet. They want to keep themselves within the ability to gain that training title. And I just thought that nobody really stood out outside of that one.
Okay. Listen, I have no argument. She is absolutely the horse to beat in here, but there are unknowns. I thought that this Cherie DeVaux horse, Paige Turner, we'll take a look at this horse's 2-year-old sales workout back in March. And this horse is a half to Speedboat Beach, who I wrote a stallion down. It was a Bayern, actually. And she's an Army Mule. And I think Army Mule is sort of like, is not as good as Speightstown, but he's a very interesting sire in that he was a dead sprinter who is produced horses that have been capable in all sorts of situations. I like that work. I like this horse is staying here to run for the last, the end of the meet. And I wonder if Paige Turner, I have no information, could be a runner. I thought it was very interesting that Cherie ships this horse all the way from Ellis. She doesn't try to run, wait for a trace at Churchill or anything. She wants to run this horse here, which says maybe she wants to have this horse ready to move on to a bigger race. I took a shot, and I also am not going to ignore Tom Amoss. His 2-year-olds have been sensational here. There is not a ton of pedigree on this one. You go back, the second family is pretty good, and it goes back to that shopping family where they cost a fortune. And I wonder, I'm not going to discount Tom's Firsters. His horses have just been so live this year.
They have, and look, I think that It's Our Time is a horse that many of us are excited about, but it's not just him. He also had Big Dom and a couple of others, and certainly worth including as well. I thought that the one with experience, All About You, quietly Ken McPeek's horses that are those debuting 2-year-olds or those 2-year-olds making those second starts have actually been running pretty well at big prices.
I don't think it's been that quiet. I think he's had an incredible week, and his horses are running very loudly and running well. I'm not going to argue with that. He's live. His horse ran okay behind a good horse last time out. She'll have to improve, and for me, I think the 8 is so much more likely to win than this horse.
I
that
agree.
If I'm going to include one that started, I'll include the 8. That's the first half of the card. 7 more to go, including the pick 6 and the late pick 5. We'll be right back.
You bet with Naira Bets. Bet any track, anywhere, anytime. Download the Naira Bets app to play today and get a $200 deposit bonus. Watch live horse racing. Get expert picks. Boost your bankroll with weekly promotions and hone your handicapping skills with exclusive tips and tutorials. Download the Naira Bets app now. Sign up now to claim your $200 deposit match bonus. You bet with Naira Bets.
Welcome back to Talking Horses. Sarah Albadwi and Andy Serling. Race number 8, and I thought it was a good one. I'm a little disappointed that Linda scratched Vetriano, a horse that I thought was going to be a major player in here. You are going to take the number 5, Rocketeer.
I am, and look, this is a wide open group, and I think you could make the case for several in this spot. I just wanted somebody who didn't have that outlier race last time, like a horse like Tap Into This, who I do respect and think is very dangerous. But at least with this one, we've seen some forward position. We've seen some races that are a little bit more consistent. Now, they're not consistently good enough to defeat Tap Into This as well as some others if they run their last race or races in the past, but I just haven't seen that element of consistency from a lot of the others.
Yeah, I don't get this horse, but, listen, with the scratch of the 2, obviously it enhances his chances with less speed in here. We'll take a look at Tap Into This. And listen, if Tap Into This is able to run back to the race he ran last time, they're probably all running for second. He got an absolutely perfect trip, but he exploded. Now, I have no idea where the hell this race came from. and he has run better race in the past, so maybe he just liked less distance and a one-turn, 7-furlong race with a very honest pace. I'm not going to be shocked if he wins here. Steve Asmussen's numbers, I looked up at Saratoga off of maiden wins on the dirt. He's just 5 for 29 with a 58-cent ROI, and what's the other? In routes, he's 1 for 5. So a lot of these horses haven't come back and run as well, but if he does, he's going to win this race. I like the 4, and we'll take a look at Burning Glory's maiden win at Churchill. This is the kind of Bill Mott horse I like. This maiden win, in my opinion, was extremely good. If you were to look through the horses in that race is extremely live. I looked up Bill, 5 to 9 month layoffs, dirt routes, 9 for 30, 30%, 269 ROI. They thought so much of this horse to be aggressive and try the Holy Bull, a race he was badly overmatched in, but he ran against some very good horses. It's not like Bill to really want to do that unless they think the horse has some talent, comes back off the layoff, and Burning Glory is just the kind of horse I think is going to be ready to roll today.
Yeah, I have this horse second. I think this one has all the room in the world to move forward. And actually, I don't think even ran that badly against some tough company in that Holy Bull. So I think this one is very live for sure at a price.
You think that the Joe Sharp Magic is going to wake Protective up?
I think that Protective needs something more than anybody's magic to wake him up. A horse who has quite some time since we've seen his better races. And I don't know. I think that he's one that, yes, he does have that win in the off-the-turf race, going the mile and a quarter distance, but I don't want to take a horse at a shorter price in this field or under 5 to 1 that just has one big race doing so in an off-the-turf spot.
I don't think he has just one big race. I think
No?
that's a misnomer. He's running some very fast maiden races. He just didn't happen to win, and he's kind of dirtied up. He's running 2 straight turf races. He ran the Pennsylvania Derby before that. So I'm not so sure. I think you could sort of draw a line through those last 3 races, and now you've got a horse that has a lot of the best figs in this race. So, and Joe has done well. I know he took over Rapoli horse somewhere. I don't think it was here that exploded recently. So I'm scared of this horse today. I'm also scared of Vekoma Rides. I don't love the post for him, but having said that, I thought he ran very well 2 back in a very tough race. And then last time out, he just kind of got run off his feet after breaking a little bit slowly, and I don't think ran that badly. I think the 10, Vekoma Rides, is extremely dangerous in here. I'm just a little scared of the post.
And that's completely fair. I think that going back quickly to a horse like Protective with Joe Sharp, I think that he's one where we saw this happen with a couple of horses that Todd Fletcher had where they switched barns and then we weren't so sure what to do with him. But David has this horse as a second choice on the morning line, so I don't necessarily want to gravitate towards him with all the
I'm
changes.
not saying I want to bet on him, but I'm not going to be surprised
You're not
when he
gonna
runs
dismiss
well
him,
in
and
here.
that's
I'm not going to
completely fair.
get too caught up in the lines. We'll see where the horses end up. I just think this horse is very dangerous in this race.
Do you think Past the Hat has any chance? If you like the other one earlier?
No.
Okay.
How's past? You don't have him anywhere. Why?
I don't.
He got loose on a track that was kind of inside speed, and now he's running against a significantly better field. Race number 9, a mile and a 16th. This race, once again, will be run on the inner turf course, not the Mellon. Where'd you go here?
And here I went to a horse that has the start and is just switching over to the turf, and just seems as though Royal Guard, the dam side turf pedigree is there for this one to at least take a step forward, perhaps getting onto this surface and getting a little bit more ground to work with. I thought that this horse actually didn't run too badly first time out over that sloppy sealed surface, going the 7 furlongs, and just kind of a guess with a horse where we have a lot of those first time starters, and at least this one was intended for the surface last time and now gets to try it.
Well, I think that a lot of times with Brad, and I could be wrong, but I don't. The stats bear it out. He runs them on the turf because he doesn't think they're that good. And I agree. This horse is a turf family. It's not a good turf family, but it is turf pedigree on the dam side and essential quality. Probably one that'll go longer in these races, and maybe he's looking for more distance, and that might be more about it in the situation. We'll see. I've got him in 4th. I saw all those things. I also want to note in here the 13 gets in, and while he's not easy to make, he's not impossible in here, and I'm not going to be surprised when he runs better, and you shouldn't totally ignore him. I don't want him if he's his 4 to 1 morning line. I took Section, this horse for Bill Mott, that sprinted first time out. There's enough turf pedigree, the dam one on the turf, that I thought this horse could be a little bit interesting for Bill Mott, and I'm just kind of taking a shot that this is one of the runners for Bill. I don't have a huge amount to go on, and I've got Chad Brown's Tacticality second in here. This horse, I think this horse is very, very dangerous. You know, a lot of people are going to see that the low purchase price. This horse has a significant amount of pedigree.
And I think that this one, just the post given, going that mile and a 16th on the turf, but at the same time.
Well, you picked the same post, though. You picked the 9, so I don't think
one,
you're that
one
worried
towards the
about
inside
posts.
and a different price, but.
Right, but you can't use the post argument against this horse if you like the 9.
Sure, I just didn't see a ton to necessarily warrant this horse being the 3-1 or around that range, other than connections.
Well, I don't agree. I think
Okay.
this horse has plenty of pedigree, so I think it's more than connection. I think the
But I
connections
think
matter.
13 getting in might change some things with
Well,
the
it makes
pedigree
the
that
race
this
a
one
little
has
bit
with
tougher.
The Foal to Spenderella, Spanish Love Affair. I think that that is an angle that people will also be betting.
Right. But I don't disagree, but he is a firster with that huge pedigree that didn't take any money last time out. So I think that should be noted as well. I'm interested a little in Omaha Storm for Mark Hennig. There's some pedigree there. Thought could be a little dangerous. See what happens. Listen, these are very, very tricky races, and I'm going to take a horse that I'm hoping is a little bit of a price. Race number 10, the Disco Partner, which unfortunately had a lot of scratches. I think Doncho had an incident and wasn't able to chip. I thought it was very, very dangerous, as was Alagon. They're coming out, and I think it's important to note that because of that, the pace scenario is dramatically changed. And it's going to hurt this horse. And we'll show you Big Invasion winning the Harvey Pack. And listen, the good Big Invasion is going to win this race, pace or not, because he's better than these horses. But coming back off a long layoff, with no real pace now in the race after the scratches, you have to be concerned about him in that scenario. His job gets so much tougher because of the lack of pace.
I agree completely. And this looked like a very evenly matched group, and he had all the right in the world to come back and run a big race in here. And I do think that he is the best horse in this field, given the body of work. But I agree. I'm a little bit concerned about him not having things set up for him well and all the time that he's taken away to get back here. I just wanted somebody that maybe has that recency edge, maybe has the ability to be a little bit more forward, though I'm not necessarily
He's
super
never
confident
forward.
in it.
He's not a horse that's forward. That's the concern with him.
Are you talking about Big Invasion?
No, 26 black.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Like, I have that concern with this horse because I just don't know how much position he's really going to have as an edge on Big Invasion, but at the same time, he does have that recency.
I think Flavian might have had him closer in the Ashley T. Cole if he had been riding him, and I think Flavian is more likely to be engaged in him, and I kind of agree. I think he's in the best early form of anybody in here, and I'm not against him. I think Dancing Buck becomes a lot more dangerous, even though off the long layer for Michelle, because he has the talent to win this race, and with the scratches, he's just gone. I mean, so Dancing Buck probably would have been higher if I had more time with the scratch of this. I might have gone 2-1, 5-9 in here, because while I respect the 5 and 9 a great deal and think both of them can win, I worry a little bit about the pace, and he's going to have an advantage. And one thing Kendrick has done at this meet is never missed an opportunity to do the right thing, and that's one of the main reasons he's having this fabulous meet. I'm going to bet an Outlaw Kid here with the scratch. Take a look at his last race. I want to show the whole race because I thought that Sahin Shavachi ran very well when he rode here last year, but I'm going to say Eventful Trip is a fairly good comment. And, you know, I understand you want to sort of save ground in these races. Having said that, he's the number 4. Now he's back to second to last. I think he ended up much farther back than he should have been in this race going 5. I think he can be a lot closer than that, and he's just going to have an absolute nightmare of a trip. This horse is about to just run right into his face and him completely and totally steady out. So a horse that's been shuffled out of position already gets even more badly interfered with. Now he does save ground, but my God, does he make a run up to contention on the inside in a literal blink of an eye? Did he hang a little bit at the end? He did, but he had a right to because he already made his move.
You don't get the opportunity to make multiple moves in turf sprints usually, but the visual kick that this horse has is clearly apparent. And without that little bit of trouble, the margin is so close that you have to imagine that he ends up getting the victory in a spot like that if he hadn't been so far back and had that momentum stop. So I think that he's a player in here for sure.
Yeah, the problem with him is he doesn't have a lot of races that are that fast. So I'm just not sure how good he really is. But I'm going to take him off that trip given the scratches. Race number 11 is coming up. Route, who is going to be a heavy favorite. I think he spiked a fever the other day, and so he was scratched from here. And we also scratched Linda's Rare Society because it's Big Linda Scratch Fest today. You're going to the number 1, 80 Gold.
And you have to excuse the last race if you want to make any sort of case for this horse. But I thought that this one was clearly just never going to be a factor in that spot. And they wrapped up on this one at the maiden special weight level last time. If you go back to the other 2 races on dirt, They are off the turf races, but I thought they were both contenders with the kind of Beyer speed figure that he ran, especially in that dirt sprint, and then the $50,000 claiming tag for the mile. I like less distance for this horse. I like the class relief for this horse. And I just did not love any sort of form that we've seen so much so from somebody else.
I don't disagree that he could be close. I don't understand you like less distance because the best race he ever ran was a mile. For the most part, he's running 6 and 5.5 furlong races, so his best figure by far was earned going a mile. So I'm just saying, it's not less distance. He's been running shorter distances. But no, I don't disagree. Listen, you don't have to have a lot going on in this race to have merit. Army Proud is not a dissimilar horse to him. Got some faster races. It's Joe Sharp. He can certainly win. I think Small Change Pop is sort of similar to the horse you're talking about, and he won that I think might benefit from a little less distance, and don't think he's impossible in here and picked him second. I end up going to Lodato. Who is just the total new face in here. Now, it is much more of a turf pedigree, but Jose D'Angelo knows that it's more of a turf pedigree. And the way he ran, let's give him a chance on the dirt. So I'm just going to take him as a total new face in a race where, man, it is hard to be excited about anybody. I think Rout would have routed this field. After that, I have absolutely no idea what's going to go on in here, and I can't knock you for taking anyone in here.
I don't have a strong opinion in this race of a couple that I don't have a strong opinion in, and it changes dramatically with that favorite coming
If somebody comes up to me and say they have a strong opinion in this race, I respect that, but they better be right. Number 12, I'm not going to try to beat Navajo Warrior in this race. We'll take a look at his races in California, and it's sort of raced at some lower level races. Safi Joseph has come alive. Trainer switches on the dirt. Safi's 21 for 88, 24% with a 204 ROI for a trainer who gets bet, and he certainly gets bet on trainer switches in routes. He's 8 for 25, 32%, 362 ROI. So he's winning with horses that are paying over $14 with a fairly reasonable sample size. And this horse is the best horse on paper by far, and I didn't have anybody in here I liked enough to bet against him, though I see you've taken a shot with somebody else.
I have, and I think that this is one of the few shots that you can logically take in this spot, if there are any, and that's Hero Status, who does have that big number last time out, but it's not as though it completely came out of nowhere when he got that victory dropping in class, and just looking at his races where he wasn't running quite as fast, I really respect the company that he was keeping. You know, you look at a horse like Money Supply, who was ultra consistent for Joe Sharp. He was just facing some better horses than he's going to be in against today. And I just wanted to find somebody who might be the other horse, but I have no delusions that Navajo Warrior is the horse to beat by far.
Yeah, I mean, Wayne Potts has obviously had a tough meet here, but I don't want to ignore alternate reality cutting back a little bit, who ran well enough in his race 2 back, and it's not like it's a fluke sloppy track race. He's run well on wet track, so I think he's a bit dangerous in here. And I was going to tease David Aragona and say, if you could take Rock the Weekend in that impossible field last time, you're supposed to take this horse again. The problem is he really has only run well on sloppy tracks in recent years, or recent races, I should say. I thought race number 13 was a bit of an interesting race, and for lack of a lot to show, we'll show Kyle's mom's last race, because it was a fast race, and frankly, given this field, I think the number 5, there's a big price in here, shouldn't be discarded, but I'm going to go to horses with more experience.
I did as well, but I think that this horse isn't impossible by any means, and I thought that this one has just taken those progressive steps forward and actually ran pretty well in that second start to just barely get beat by a horse who was a little bit of a shorter price in there, but this is the one where this horse really put everything together and was able to draw away from this field. I think this horse is dangerous. I have no problems with this horse being in a field like this spot off of the maiden win for the 20,000. I just wanted somebody who perhaps has not been so exposed at a level like this with the number 8, Julieta, a horse who is making a big drop in class.
Talk about Julieta.
I think that Dave Duggan's quietly had a decent meet so far, and I think that just the company that this one has been keeping, you see her only time in for a tag. Yes, it's off the turf, but at the same time, she was able to control that race from start to finish and win very easily at an extremely short price. I think that this is just a move where she's going to really find her friend, so to speak, and get into a spot that she might have some numbers that are just a little bit better than a couple of these.
I like David Duggan and have respected him as a trainer for a long, long time. He's not having a good meet. It's very tough to win in Saratoga. We don't have to falsely compliment people. If you saw David, he would say, Sarah, I'm not having a great meet. He's running horses. He has horses that just aren't good enough to win. I think if he has the right horse, they can win. My problem with her is, where does she have a race that's fast enough to compete here? That's my biggest problem with her.
I
She's
get
just
it.
never
but
run a race over a 60 buyer, and somebody in here is going to run better than a 60. It's fine. She'll be a price in here. I just didn't know if she was fast enough, but I wish you good luck with her. I'm betting enigmatic here for Michelle Nevin, who was just over her head in an off-the-turf race last time, got into a massive duel with the winner, who you just couldn't get by, and actually had come back and run respectably in a subsequent start. The race I think Michelle won. This horse does have races that are fast enough. And with the scratch of the number 4, I think you've taken some of the speed. Now, I don't disagree. There are others that can be forward in here, but I think that she's faster. And I just hope Louis Rivera comes flying out of the gate with this horse and tries to wire the field, because I tell you what, she's got fast enough races, and this is a field where I wouldn't want to ask anybody to get overly brave trying to close. So I thought she was dangerous to wire the field. You've got the number 9 second here, Our Lady Peace.
Yeah, just looking for somebody that was at least potentially viable in here. And the one start on the dirt, this horse had forward position that day. I thought ran okay enough. And this one is taking a step up in class, but at the same time, we've never seen this horse on a fast main track. And the meet that Saffie Joseph Jr. is having, I didn't want to ignore completely that this one could run a reasonably fast enough race to compete.
Saffie's come alive recently. He was not doing anything special, but he's had some good runners. I don't think she comes out of a live race down there, a slow race, but a live race. I don't love that the horse she dueled with ended up winning the race in there, but I can understand looking at some other horses in here. I think the 7 Carolina Smoke Show is extremely dangerous in here for Dan Ward. I respect the heck out of Dan off the claim. He's done a very good job. For people not familiar with him, he was the longtime assistant for Jerry Hollendorfer, and he's done very well when he's gone out on his own. And my problem is that she's coming out of a bad race.
She really
and she
is.
really ran badly last time. So you're kind of counting on Dan to kind of revitalize her, because she got I'm friends with Florent, but Florent, your ride 2 back was not your best work. And one thing you have to say about her, you get rid of her last race, she's good enough to beat this field, and is kind of the horse to beat.
She is, but I think that it makes sense to maybe think that she dropped off the cliff that she did for a reason. And then the bad race last time where she
Her last race was bad.
She is changing barns, and that could easily wake her up. I just think
cutting back a little. No, I agree. Her last was bad. I think Flatter Fanatic is interesting. Her race 2 back I thought was good enough to give her a chance in here as well for Heather Smullen. So there's a lot going on in here. I like the 2. Sarah likes the number 8. We'll see what happens in race number 13. This final race on today's 14-race marathon, which does include the incredible running of the Jockey Club Gold Cup. I've run out of steam, as apparently you have as well, and I'm just going to take Deemer. We'll show Deemer's debut. Just never really had a chance last time, where Anexperience just ran off from the field, and I don't love the post, but I think this one might just be better than these horses, unless you want Mission Hill, who does try maiden claimers for the first time, for Dave Duggan.
Well, looking at Deemer, I ran out of some creativity as well, but at the same time, this horse is just logical. Taking that drop in class to the maiden claiming, ran okay last time. I think that this horse was bet with some difficult starts in that second start, came back as that 3-year-old and saw a decent race in that last one. And I just haven't seen a ton from some of these, and it's more of that guessing game. And when you get to race 14, it's like, well, this horse has proven form and makes a lot of sense, and so I'm going to go with it.
Well, I just don't know where the Wise Guy horse is in this race. Now, there may be a horse like that, but Hello Newman, first time for a tag going long on the turf, ran figures against better horses to make her very dangerous. But, you know, he's 2-1 in this race. Let's Fight is a short price, and I respect Mike Maker as much as anybody, but this horse is David made short because of Dirt Figs and Irad.
Exactly.
And this is not exactly a great turf pedigree, but it is a Scat Daddy Dam and a Fog of War sire, so there is turf there, but I just don't see who the clever horse is in this race, and I searched far and wide, and I just didn't find that horse.
I didn't either. And look, I think that Let's Fight might be a little more interesting at a different price, but you're not going to get that price given Irad and this one coming in with the kind of dirt races that he does. So that might have been where I went, but it's not really a bettable prospect given the kind of changes that are being made.
See what happens in race 14. Sarah, thank you so much as we made it through this marathon 14-race card, which features race 5, the Jockey Club Gold Cup, and this is as good as racing gets. I mean, this is arguably the race of the year. Some will say it's the Kentucky Derby, and that's fair. But as far as, you know, accomplished older runners, it's amazing the group that has gone here. And other than what Fierceness did out west, They're all in this race, so this is going to be a good one you don't want to miss. It's on Fox from 1 to 2 if you're not joining us here on Big Fox Network between 1 and 2, the Jockey Club Gold Cup. Head over to Naira Bets. Use the promo code SPA200 and we'll match the $200 of your initial deposit play through Naira Bets. Bet any track, anywhere, anytime. Where are we going with slates, Eddie? Do you ever find that other slate? There it is. Oh, a 30% bonus. You're playing Monmouth. Opt in for that for the pick 3 bonus. Got a cross-country pick 5 as well, which includes 3 from here and then 2 later at Monmouth, including their Rumson Stakes. Starts at just after 12:30, the cross-country pick 5. I know what Eddie will be doing at 12:30. We also have the Low Rollers contest, my main man Jay and Ray as well, over by the Miller Time 4-Star Dave Sports Bar. A lot of fun. A lot of people have been excited to get these back. I had a lot of questions about these when we weren't able to run them last year. They are back. Head on over. Last chance to see those guys and play. $30 towards your bankroll, 10 to the prize pool. A very popular contest here, which can only be played on track. And the show is the last one still wrong. Here's the deal. We're on all day long. FS2, Fox, FS2, FS1, FS2, and it's 5 to 7. 11 to 7, 8 hours of racing here on the penultimate day here at Saratoga. Thank you very much, Sarah. Thank you for watching. Frank Miramati, we're working him to the bone. He's got 14 to cover today, 11 more tomorrow. He'll be up next with a reprise of the Scratches and Changes. Enjoy a glorious Jockey Club Gold Cup day here at Saratoga.
You bet with Naira Bets. Bet any track, anywhere, anytime. Download the Naira Bets app to play today and get a $200 deposit bonus. Watch live horse racing. Get expert picks. Boost your bankroll with weekly promotions and hone your handicapping skills with exclusive tips and tutorials. Download the Naira Bets app now. Sign up now to claim your $200 deposit match bonus. You bet with Naira Bets.